Bestselling author and world-renowned dream explorer Robert Moss has died and come back 3 times in his lifetime. I recently had the opportunity to sit down and talk with him about his new book, The Boy Who Died and Came Back. I hope that you'll enjoy the interview.
When I was 3, my mother took me to West Australia from the east coast of Australia to meet her family, who included an opera singer we called Auntie Dick, Dame Nellie Melba's friend and understudy, who also liked to read the tea leaves and was often quite accurate, so she reads the tea leaves. When she looks at the leaves at the bottom of my cup, she leaves the room, having turned white and won't talk. Later she told us that she saw my death. She saw me dying that winter. She was correct. That winter, in a Tasmanian hospital, I lost all vital signs, and when I came back, the doctors told my parents, "Your boy died and he came back." And that has seemed to me to be the most accurate description of this kind of experience. I don't remember much of what happened to me when I was out of my body age 3. I do know how hard it was to remain in the body and walk in this world afterwards. It was very hard for me to keep things together. I felt quite alien. But of course, this was not the last of my experiences of dying and coming back.
Tell us about your other experiences.
I'm 9 years old. I've been rushed to a hospital in Melbourne for an emergency appendectomy. I'm out of my body now in the operating room looking at the scene and not enjoying it. So I leave the body in the operating room in my second body, fly out the window of the hospital, go to Luna Park, a famous theme park along the beach there in Melbourne, to have some fun. I want to be a normal kid. I'm 9 years old. I want to go on the roller coaster. I go on the ghost train. I'm pulled down into what seems to be a world within the world, and I am greeted and welcomed by a beautiful race of people, taller, more slender, paler, more otherworldly than humans, who raise me as their own. I seem to live a whole life among them. Before eventually that body is used up and I think I'm going to my star home, but instead I'm pulled back into the body of a frightened 9-year-old in a Melbourne operating room. Remembering what seems to be a whole life lived in another world. Now this already raises the challenge. How do you carry this kind of knowledge? Whatever you think about or other people think about, how do you carry this kind of knowledge in an ordinary life? I'm living in a very conservative era in a military family, hard to talk about inner and visionary experiences and otherworldly experiences. The first person who gave me a model of understanding this kind of thing, and this has lived with me all my life, was an Aboriginal kid from the first people of Australia who said, "Oh yeah, we do that. We get sick, we go live with the spirits, and when we get well, we come back, and sometimes we're different. We get sick, we go live with the spirits, when we get well, we come back." So that's really, the turning point of this life, knowing that there are other worlds, and then eventually figuring out how to live in this world and carry the knowledge of those other worlds. That's really the central theme of my life, and the one that I write about in the new book.
And you went on to create Active Dreaming, which is an original synthesis of dream work and shamanism that's now being taught and practiced in more than 20 countries. So what is active dreaming, and what is the life of a dream teacher like?
Well, active dreaming is the marriage of shamanism and dream work, which is to say it is a method for having direct experience of the deeper reality by traveling there, by going consciously into the dreaming. Yes, it unfolds some of the things we call lucid dreaming, but it goes beyond that. We learn a geography of the other worlds. We travel there, we go to places where soul are at home, we go to places where the dead live and are alive, etc. We do that consciously. And it's a way of bringing the gifts of dreaming, the gifts of the deeper world, into embodied life on an everyday basis. It's a fun way of learning to share things with each other and guide each other towards action that bring dream energy through. The life of a dream teacher? Well, I spend half my time traveling the world teaching these things in all sorts of situations. Sometimes to people who are very challenged in their lives because of personal history, family history, the traumatic collective history of a whole culture. And I love all these travels. I love the brightness of spirit that comes on in the eyes when someone is remembering more of their own story, getting more of soul back in the body. I love what can be done in a country with a tragic history to help people rise out of the ashes of that history and get things together. So it is my pleasure to bring this to people so they can become shamans of the breakfast table, talking about their dreams of the night and their dreams of life in a fun, energizing way every day.
And so given all of these amazing experiences that you've had, would you say that you're afraid of death?
No, I was in love with death as a boy. It was the contrary thing. I've always felt, because of my childhood experience, an intimate connection with death. And you know this, when I want guidance or clarity on a life decision, I like to know that death is right here advising me. When I'm in doubts about how to handle something, I ask, how does this look when seen from the aspect of death? Because if you feel that death is right there, you could die at this moment and need to be ready, then you can bring a courage or clarity to things which is otherwise lacking. As far as what follows death, well, I have some experience of that, and I don't have fixed expectations for myself or for anybody else. There's a lot of geography out there in the afterlife. There's a people of the South Pacific who say there are as many afterlife locales as there are human imaginations. And I'm sympathetic to that idea. I think in a sense we can create our situation in the afterlife just as we do in this world. The main fear that I have is of checking out of this body and leaving it behind permanently before I've done all the things that I'm here to do. And made up for any karmic debt incurred in this life or in other lives. Those are the things I want to make darn sure I've taken care of before I move on. In that sense, and only in that sense, do I have fear of death.
And what would you say is the most important thing that you've learned about reality throughout this incredible life journey of yours?
The time is now. The time is always now, except maybe when the time is go. From this point of power in now, you can access all your lives, past, present, or parallel, all other times, and you can change them for the better. I teach people, for example, to deal with their counterparts in past lives or future lives or parallel lives, in the understanding that, in a sense, it's all happening now. If you feel that you are karmically connected to that person in the 16th century or somewhere else, then go mind to mind into their situation. Talk to each other, bring skills and gifts and lessons from their life into yours and vice versa, and change things that way. You stand at the center of all times. Claim that power. Reach to that parallel self who has gifts and strengths you're not using at the moment and borrow them and share with them. The time is now.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Robert, for writing this book, for blazing the trail that you have blazed, and for coming in and talking to us today.
My pleasure. May your best dreams come true, and may you remember them.